again, introduce myself. I'm Richard V from Richard V Chambers. With me today, Mr. Jordan Un from Homestay and Marisa Raza, who is a fellow partner at RWC. Can I invite Jordan first to perhaps uh, introduce yourself and the company you're doing for a few minutes? All yours, Jordan.
Definitely. Hello, everyone. I'm Jordan. Let me share you with a slide so it's easier to understand because Homestay has a very unique proposition and business model. Okay, so I'm from Homestay. Homestay, we are integrated to Airbnb, Agoda, Booking.com, Expedia, and Ctrip. We are the only company in Southeast Asia that has the full integration. So what do we do? But before that, let's see why we started this company. I was a property investor. I bought a property when the agent was telling me, wow, you can easily sell it off, you can easily rent it off. Back then, when I got my keys, it doesn't seem so easy at all. So I have my own business myself before I started Homestay. So I left my property vacant for 2 years. I believe a lot of people are similar to us. So our mission when we started this company is to solve this problem, the vacant property. So we are generating return, not only doing short stay. So for example, in the current situation, we are moving more into the long stay. Our key reason of us founding the company is actually to generate the returns. Okay. Secondly, then we are aiming to be the #1 platform in Southeast Asia. So this is our website. You can come in, you can see that there is 2 key clients that we are aiming for. The target audience are owner and host. So today we are focusing on the owner side. So when you click on the blue color button, it will lead you here. So you just need to key in your address and it will pop you into a map. All right. In this map here is stated all over Semenanjung. Basically, we are pretty much covered already in the whole Semenanjung, even Kelantan, Terengganu area. Here you can see if you zoom in more, you will get all the blue color areas of every location that we have a host in. And you can see here we have the regulation status, which is in red color and yellow color. Here you can see property approved, property banned. So here you can see in yellow color, it is very minimal. So not many JMB and building has already approved to run this short stay. But you can see the red color one. These are some of the building and we are adding Verve Suite into the list of red color. So you all can check it out here. So some of the projects that we have all over Malaysia, these are projects that are pretty much approved and we have the JMB or majority rights in the building already. So in a quick nutshell, Homestay, we are generating a mid to higher return. With a transparency report, we are available all over Malaysia. We are aiming for concierge service, 24/7 support, short stay insurance, in-house system, in-house channel manager, in-house owner reporting. So this is where we are. Okay. So our secret is we have spent 3 years working on the API integration, which Airbnb, Agoda, Booking.com all has been integrated. We have a subsidiary which is called Host Platform, which is focusing on servicing the host to make sure that they take care of the property or property investor. And we have an app that every single owner also will have this report also. Okay, so Homestay, we are also exclusive partner of Tujia. Tujia is the largest platform in China. It is something like Baidu to Google. It's something like Alibaba to Amazon. Tujia is the Airbnb of China. And most importantly, which is why we are invited here today, we are part of the short stay regulation group. This is a group founded in 2018. It is led by the JKT and MOTEC, Ministry of Tourism, and Jabatan Kerajaan Tempatan, the local government. This is developed by MPC. So all these people are already in the loop. So DBKL, LHDN, you can see JPN, everyone is already in the loop here. This is why the court case that rules it out is pretty in line with the document that was drafted. Okay, so quick fact sheet. Founded in 2017, we have more than 70 million transactions now, 3,000 units on our platform, more than 150 hosts. Okay.
Well done.
Thank you. Thank you.
I must congratulate you. John, it's always very nice to see local entrepreneur growing and developing something locally which will go globally eventually. Well done, well done. Marisa, can I invite you to introduce yourself, please?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. Well, I don't have a slide to share like Jordan did. But all right, so I'm Marlisa Raza. Sorry, let me just pin this. Right, I'm Marlisa Raza, one of the partners at RWC Chambers. I'm leading now the Tourism and Hospitality Law department in RWC. I've been doing this for, I guess, professionally for the past 2 years, I guess. But before this, travel has always been my passion. It has always been my interest. And now I'm using my passion into my work. While traveling, I've seen a lot of legal issues popped up, which are not addressed technically in the industry itself. So here I am trying to create awareness, trying to create more awareness within the travel industry people and stakeholders, so we can have a better regulated industry. That's all, Richard.
Well said, Mal. Yes, indeed. We've seen you traveling all over the world in the last few years, and it's always very nice to bring your passion into your work and actually, as a lawyer, provide services for something which we actually like outside our legal profession. So well done to you, Mal. So today, ladies and gentlemen, the format that we intend to hold this webinar is not one of those where we put up slides and one person speak for half an hour. This is actually in bahasa Melayu, wawancara. Kita akan buat secara wawancara, secara temuruga, secara bora-bora. Kita akan membawang sikit. So we're going to actually have a bit of a discussion, dialogue, like an interview. We will review, we will have a preview, and we will conduct this interview. So let's kick start with this interview. Maybe we can pose a question to our guest, Jordan. Jordan, just generally from your perspective as a stakeholder, as a business and commerce stakeholder, how do you define a short stay rental? What do you see as a short stay rental?
All right, I will use the terminology given by the government. So from the government perspective, they have actually split it. The short stay is very vague, but then they have specifically say what is not short stay. So we start from there. So long-term tenancy is not short stay. Homestay is not short stay. Homestay is a special division approved by the government. Probably some of you might have heard of kampung stay. It is similar to kampung stay. The homestay division is a government-supported program. Unique stay is not under short stay. Unique, for example, tree houses, caravan. So anything that are not under these three category is literally short stay. So if you are staying in a property less than a year without a tenancy contract, in most of the condominiums, those are categorized as short stay.
I see. Interesting the way. So that's how the commercial industry look at it.
Yes, correct.
Okay, but Mal, from the legal point of view, from a lawyer's point of view,
Yes.
how would we describe or accept something as a short stay? What would you say that?
Okay, so there is no one particular definition of short stay legally, but what I can conclude from a lot of my readings is short stay is a furnished accommodation provided by the host for a short period of time. So that is basically it, and the tenant or the occupier is licensed to use and utilize the house.
I see.
That's under legal.
There is a possibility while people in business like Jordan, they will see homestay, unique stay, kampung stay, and short stay as different businesses, but legally they may all be actually combined under as defined as something for a short-term license stay. It's
Correct.
possible, isn't it? Yeah,
it is possible. It is
possible. Yeah, that
legally speaking. Yeah.
so the business definition and legal definition may slightly differ as we evolve in this area. Well, to be fair, it is a very new area in Malaysia. Who would have thought that you can rent out your house for a few days? This is a new concept for us. When I say new, it's fairly new for the last 5 to 7 years. I'm quite pretty sure 10 to 15 years ago, nobody would have done this. Everyone will be thinking rental means, oh, okay lah, I rent to you my apartment for 3 years lah. That kind of thing. Okay. Since you are on Mal, before we go back to Jordan, so we will continue with this Q&A, ladies and gentlemen. Maybe any pointers, general pointers first, don't go in detail yet. What are the regulations and maybe any governing statutes for this area to regulate this? Maybe some general comments that first, Mal, before we go in detail.
All right. Okay. So generally, like what Jordan has pointed out earlier, there is no one specific regulation per se. The government is still very much ongoing and looking into this. In Malaysia specifically, there is no one set of regulation, but we can conclude that regulations for short stay can be derived from the Strata Management Act. We can derive it from Tourism Industry Act. And we can derive it from local authority bylaws. So these are the regulations which we have to look at in terms of looking at regulations for short stay rental. Yeah.
Well said. I'm going to come to Jordan soon. Get ready, Jordan.
Sure.
But I already see some questions in Zoom. So ladies and gentlemen, I repeat, because this is a Zoom session, most of the questions in Zoom will be addressed. And any questions posted at Facebook Live, we will try to refer. But that is actually a viewing party over there as compared to the session we held in Zoom. So please accept my apology if you are unable to address all the queries at Facebook. So if you have any questions here in Zoom, please put your Q&A at your Q at the chat room, and we will give you the A later in the morning. Jordan. Our Melissa has already mentioned something about there are people regulating. There are people who are already involved in keeping an eye on this thing. And I saw your slides, wonderfully done. You listed down a whole list and set of people involved in this area. And I saw including even Ministry of Finance.
Yes,
what are your comments pertaining, who are the people who are actually regulating this industry? Who are they?
Okay. The good news is the Malaysia is not going to ban short stay. Okay, that's the good news of it, because they have been working on this for more than a few years to regulate it. And from a bigger picture, there is no one. There is, for example, like Grab or ride hailing, the Transport Ministry. That is very straightforward. For this, it is very complex because it comes into multiple. There is three key stakeholders. The first one is Ministry of Finance. They actually solve it with digital tax because Airbnb, Agoda, Booking.com, they are not paying taxes previously. All right, so that is solved early this year. Second portion, it is the Ministry of Tourism. They need all these platforms to be registered as a registered platform under the Ministry of Tourism, so they know how many transactions is coming into Malaysia. So that is already registered. But then here comes the third portion, which is called the local housing or JK. KPKT, the Kerajaan Tempatan. So the local, yes, correct. So here it comes into the bylaws, it comes into which states is allowed, how many stays is it allowed, how many days, everything of here. There is multiple states here. There is no one, they are trying to consolidate a law throughout Malaysia, but they couldn't get it done. Penang have their own regulation, Selangor have their own regulation, and also Sabah have their own regulation. So that is why the three portion. But basically, they have come to a consensus. They have a working committee. They have come to a consensus with variables for each local government to tweak it. So that is the background of the committee. Yeah.
Interesting, very interesting. I must say, Jordan, thank God we have the committee. And I mean, my next comment is not meant to be a negative comment against the system, but unfortunately, once again, just looking at the sheer size of the committee that you are involved, look at the red tape that Malaysia goes through. Exactly. I'm sorry to say, and then we go through this as a lawyer. We are king of going around red tapes. That's our job, to go around the red tapes and deal with the red tapes. But this is amazing, looking at the amount of people in the regulatory aspects of this. I really hope eventually it will come under one. Eventually, let's hope so.
Too.
Yeah. So, but good luck to you on that point, Joy. Keep it going. Yeah. On the point of regulatory bodies, Mal, if you move towards, let's say now, let's go straight to the reason why we're having this webinar. before we come back later, Jordan, I'm going to ask you later, Jordan, about the impact of the COVID-19 on this area. We'll come back to you on that. That is actually quite an important discussion. And I think many people who log in today would like to hear your ideas on how to resolve that impact, right? Now, Mal, the Verve case, the Verve Suites case.
Yeah.
Maybe now that we hear Jordan explaining to us all the kind of regulatory, the pening kepala that he has to go through. On your side, Mal, would you like to share with us maybe 2 to 3 minutes what happened in Verve Suites? Earlier in the morning at 10:56, when I log on, I mentioned a little bit to everybody, but I am not expert in this area as compared to you. So all yours, Mal.
Okay, all right. So basically for the Verve case, it was recently decided in August 2020 by the federal court. So this is actually a landmark case in Malaysia. Thank God for this case. At least some light has been shed in the industry. So what happened was few house owners in Mont Kiara Verve Suites have rented out their house parcels to Airbnb's users, so tourists, visitors, and whatnot. So they have been using this their houses for this purpose. Their management corporation has enacted a bylaw, a house rule to say that short-term stay is prohibited. But they continued to rent out their parcels, so their houses. And then they were fined by the management corporation, 200 daily, actually. And that is provided under the house rules. And they have basically challenged the house rules and also the decision by the management corporation. This case went up to the federal court, and there were only two main issues that were debated there. One is the legitimacy of the house rules itself, and secondly, whether the house rules ultra vires Section 70 of the Strata Management Act. So if you look into each one of the ground, under the legitimacy of house rules, the federal court actually looked into the contradiction between Section 120 of the NLC, the National Land Code, and Section 70 of the Strata Management. So briefly, Section 70 of the Strata Management Act empowers the Management Corporation or JMB to enact house rules for whatever reasons. However, Section 120 is on restrictions by local authority. So for example, if the building is categorized as commercial or building or residential, so the house rules cannot overrule this. Okay, and it's just so happened that Verve Suites was under buildings and under commercial. So the house owners argued that because of this categorization, they are allowed to rent out their houses. However, the court has looked into this harmoniously and has affirmed the High Court and the Court of Appeals decision, which says that there is no contradiction and the house rules is legitimate.
And therefore can prevail.
And therefore can prevail.
Can prevail, yeah.
Right? So on the second issue of it, whether the house rules ultra vires Section 70. So Section 70 of the Strata Management says that Management Corporation can enact bylaws, and the Management Corporation has said no Airbnbs whatsoever. The defendants, however, the house owners, argued that their houses or their act of renting out under short-term rental is tenancy exempt from registration. So it is not tenancy. Therefore, it doesn't fall within Strata Management Act. However, the court looked at it and says it is actually license, falls within the definition of license after looking at the definition under the Airbnb TNCs, where it says the houses are actually limited by license, and the tenants or the visitors do not have exclusive possession over the premises. Therefore, it falls within license. And because of this, the HR or the house rules do not ultra vires Section 70. So in conclusion, basically the federal court is saying that management corporations can enact bylaws which prohibit short-term rentals.
Yeah,
So that is
that's
the
the.
conclusion.
I think that's the punchline that everyone wants to hear from us.
Correct. So
But-
yes, that is the main thing that the federal court has decided on.
Just a quick tuition for everybody who's listening in here. If what Marlisa was saying was too technical legally, which as a lawyer we totally understand what she's saying. Basically, when you're renting out your residential unit or your unit to another human being or a company, it's a tenancy. That's the first assumption, is a tenancy. But what happens if it's a short stay for a few days or few weeks? What does it do? So it now becomes a license. So I'm going to go to later, Mal, with you with a few questions. Number one, is it only for residential and residential and commercial? Right? My view is doesn't matter when it comes to law. Both are under strata. The key is under strata. But I'll ask you the question later whether it falls within only this rule only applies for commercial or residential. Then the next thing we need to know is about when do we define short term? 1 day, 2 days, 9 days, 300 days. When does it fall within short term and when does it fall within tenancy? That is something I think people want to know also. And I want to invite Jordan.
Something Marissa said earlier. All right, just
yes,
a
Jordan?
quick one. All right. The reason why I bring out this document, this is a document that is not prepared by me, it's prepared by the government actually in 2018 and 2019. Oops, okay. So in here, basically the court is, you can see that these are very new regulation. It's not implemented yet. So this is the draft copy and this is actually drafted here, the power of the JMB and MC. So that the JMB and MC has total control of power is given to them to enact bylaws for regulating the control, management, admin, use, and the enjoyment of the property. So that was in 2018 and 19, and they are amending some of the acts here. So
it looks
there
like,
are
yep.
a lot of things in this document that are not implemented yet. Okay, but we believe that it will be implemented in the coming years.
Thank you, Jordan. Good to have you with the insight. Yeah. Sorry, I interjected you there. What I meant to say is that it looks like the government is already reacting and embracing the spirit of the federal court decision. It looks like that, right?
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to this short stay and long stay thing, Jordan, from your perspective, as I mentioned earlier, I'll come back to Mal later. What is your view in terms of how do you see something as short-term stay? We already heard you say about village, kampong stay, home stay. So for short-term stay, how do you define it? 10 days, 3 days? From a commercial point of view, how do you do it?
All right. Okay. So coming back to the document, okay, because it's not about me, I am nowhere to comment on that, but the document that was drafted part of the committee. So in here, it is very, the terminology is very, very straightforward. The STRA is rental for relative short period of time, technically without any tenancy agreement. So it could be 1 day, it could be 9 months, all right? So residential accommodation means any property used for dwelling purposes. It includes bungalow all the way to Soho and Sovo. So means making available for rent. Here is it typically on a daily basis. So this is the terminology for relative short period of time. Normally on a daily basis. So it includes, so here just now what I mentioned to innovative accommodation, homestay, hotel, and tenancy. These are excluded from this drafting. But here is not only regulating the property itself only. It is a totally new industry. It is regulating the host also. So in this document, it regulates the host, it regulates the agent, it regulates the platform also. And the property itself is anything excluding these 4 types of property. So that is the terminology given by them. Basically, the answer is on a daily basis.
It looks like that, yeah. And to be fair, when they use the word relatively short period of time, my lawyer's brain already start thinking, how do you define that? Mal, how would you define that, Mal?
To be honest with you, I don't really know. There is no one fixed term.
Yeah, exactly.
3 months can be short term, 6 months can be short term, 1 year can be short term.
Actually, if you ask me, Mal, again, off the cuff, I'm speaking off the cuff and we didn't plan this part of what I'm going to say. I don't think we should look at how many days you are renting, you know.
Correct.
I think we must look at the context of what we are renting out. I mean,
Correct.
if you have but if by some chance one day Airbnb is dealing with rental of a gudang, a huge gudang, you know, rental of a gudang, nobody rent a gudang for one day. So you have to see, if you rent out a gudang this way for say 6 months, it may be deemed to be short-term rental in that context, you know. It's possible, you know. Yeah, so anyway, it's interesting to see how the law will eventually refine the definition of reasonable period of stay as shared by Jordan. Going on from there, Mark, we'll come back to you now. If you look at the way the Verve Suites was decided, what do you see the impact of that legal decision, the legal impact you see on all the commercial and sorry, I have to digress for a while. There's this perception among the public that, oh, if it's a commercial unit, no problem, I can rent and do whatever I want because it's commercial. And then if it's residential, oh, you cannot lah. I have to ask my management first. Actually, that is an incorrect perception. The moment you live in a strata, which means you know, a condominium or even a set of rule where in a row of bungalows, which are all strata living, having your own security guard. The moment you're in strata, this may apply, isn't it, Mal? Yeah, it may apply.
That is correct. Yep.
Okay, so with that, my question again, how do you see the impact of the Verve Suites on this area?
Well, I think one positive impact is it made things clear. Because before this, a lot of challenge, a lot of disputes, a lot of discussions went on between the stakeholders, house owners. You know, house owners dispute with their management corporation, say, hey, why can't I rent out my property? It's my own property. But then again, the federal court case has clearly stated that the management corporation or the JMB have powers to enact any kind of rules which protect the interest, safety, health of the residents in the area. So I guess in that sense, the impact would be, one, is it's clear. Two, probably it is not very good for the house owners, because now a lot of management corporations will go out there and say no to short-term rental. However, I think, and I think Jordan might agree with this as well, the house owners and the management corporation can sit together and now discuss. I think the federal court case has set out what are the criterias and what are the powers empowered to the management corporation, and what can the house owners do. So probably now is a good chance for house owners who want to do this and for the management corporation to sit together and discuss on how to regulate short-term rental. So I think it's a win-win situation if we do this, instead of management corporation say no, not at all. You know, because sometimes house owners need this as a side income or something like that. Yeah.
So I suppose there's clarity. There seems to be now a way forward with regards to the management of the strata. That organization, they now know what to do, and the house owner know their rights better. It's more defined, and in your view, you recommend both parties meet to discuss for the future well-being, right?
Yes.
Jordan, you are a stakeholder in this business. Clearly, I'm sure you have seen with your own eyes what has happened on the ground, or in this case, up on the floor about this. Can you give your comments so far? What have you seen the impact of the Verve Suites on the industry?
All right, Richard, you have mentioned a good thing. In the public, people believe is a misconception, but people believe that if you're in a commercial title, you can do anything you want with the property. Okay, that is a very huge misconception based on the way moving forward. So the impact is huge for Verve Suite. To me, it's a positive impact, meaning that even the federal court now is complying to the working committee of short stay that was drafted and commented by multiple divisions of the government. So that is a positive step moving forward, that the JMB have the regulation. So by JMB having the authority is not necessarily a bad thing, meaning that if it's able to enact bylaws in a commercial property to ban short stay or Airbnb, meaning that in residential property, the JMB also have the power to enact to make it short stay friendly. Okay, so end of the day, what is the main purpose of this? As a residents in a condominium, we want to take care of the well-being of the strata building. It's not about just making profit. Let's make profit while taking care of the environment. There is another case happening last month in Penang. So the committee sits down with everyone. There is a case of the guest bullying the guard or was having a fight with the guard. So the JMB, the residents and everyone sit down. They did not ban every single host. End of the day, they ban one single host because there is house rule. So everyone needs to comply the house rule. If you comply to this, you can do Airbnb, you can do short stay. But if you don't comply to this, your deposit will be collected and your company alone and the property that you manage are banned. So this is actually in favor of this business going long term. So I believe that this Verve Suites is actually creating a very good positive impact moving forward.
I love what you said that, Jordan, that while at one point we all look at the part about the management saying no, actually it's also a possibility that the management say yes, and then regulate it. And perhaps even give a prescription, maybe even prescribe how you run this. You know, in bahasa Malaysia, dia boleh tunjuk aja bagaimana kita akan melakukan benda ini. Bukan tembak-tembak saja, right? As we say that. Well said. So let's see how this thing develop for the next few years. We may actually come back one day and hold this webinar again, Jordan, on this point. Yeah. Moving on, still, of course, in the spirit of the Verve Suites decision, Mal, now that we know this case, you heard Jordan's practical and commercial comments. You have shared with us the legal aspects, which you think there is clarity. The GMB can be more precise on this, etc., etc. So for the short term now, if I have an apartment, doesn't matter whether it's a commercial or residential title, and I'm actually still renting out Airbnb, and actually I am in a way contravening. Let's say that apartment has a rule and I continue to contravene. What do you think can happen to a landlord like me who own an apartment who continue to flout the rule? What would you say to me?
Well, generally, I think on the surface, you may have to stop immediately.
That was an easy answer.
Yes, that is an easy answer. You may want to stop immediately and temporarily. And if, let's say, the management corporation has caught you doing all this, they may take action against you. So then, you don't want to make things worse, because the Verve Suites case has already set it straight. And I think management corporation will use this against you to say that, look, my house rules is clear. You can't do this. So then they will have more confidence to take action against you. So my straightaway answer is stop it before you get caught and before you get into a worse situation. But there's always room for negotiation, I feel, Richard, because everyone knows what short-term rental is. So there is no. My idea is maybe you can talk to your management corporation. So there's always room for negotiation at the end of the day.
Yeah, but at least now both parties know better where they stand.
Correct.
But what happens, Mal, before I go back to Jordan, from your point of view, if, and there are many of them in this situation, if the strata living, the condo, office, apartment, whatever, is silent, the rules are not described this way, it didn't state can or cannot, yes or no, what is your comment for a landowner in that position?
That is a very interesting question, actually, because one is, if the house rule doesn't state, you may have a little bit more confidence to do it on your property, but then you will have to look at the local authority bylaws. If the local authority bylaws prohibit house rental or short-term rental, then I'm sorry, you can't do it as well. But if the local authority allows it and your house rule doesn't address this issue, then please go ahead. You may do so. That's legally speaking, because then it's clear, because local authority also has the power to enact this kind of bylaws for strata buildings. So yes, if your house rule doesn't say it, look at local authority bylaws. If local authority bylaw is silent, then I think you can do it, because then because if local authority doesn't mention it, means it's not prohibited. That's my take on it.
I tend to agree with you on that point, Mal. I as a fellow member of the bar, I think that position should be a sustainable position. In short, if the condo and apartment that you are living in, the strata title, the area that you're living in, does not have a prescribed rule on this area, then chances are you can continue doing it subject to other laws. Right? Yeah, yes. I think that's quite clear. Thanks. Jordan, coming to you, what is your comment on that? I'm sure you will have a question. Let's say I am a owner of a condo and I come to you, hey, Mr. Jordan, I stay in this condo, 1, 2, 3, they have no rule, no rule. Can I do? What would you say to such a landlord?
Okay, there is actually, Marissa is correct. So if there is no rules, you come back to the local government. So for example, in Penang, it is stated that residential property are illegal. Okay, but this is also very interesting. I asked the state government myself, so commercial, is it legal or not? I say, commercial, we never say it's legal. But then I say, but when you talk about this, you give me an impression that residential cannot do, commercial can do. But I say, no, we said that residential cannot do. We never say commercial can do. So that is from a local housing perspective also. So you are correct. So if I may share the slide quickly. So this is, so if the people ask me, I'll always refer back to this document. So from the document perspective, it will come down to this. So it is something that is commented here, which is very interesting. You can see under here, the commercial has no night cap. So currently it is gray, and I personally don't like gray. I like black or white. I think lawyers are same. Currently, there is no regulation. It is gray. So if anyone asks me, I say, we don't know. But then from the government direction of moving forward, commercial can do short stay provided that the JMB allowed without night cap. But for residential, even if the JMB allows, there will be a night cap. Okay, so that is what this document is trying to do, because currently there is no default rules, which is a very good question. What is the default rule when there is no JMB rules? So if this document is implemented, there will be a default that every property, residential and commercial, can do short stay until the JMB ban it. Commercial has no night cap, residential has a night cap. But the local authority has the right, you put it, local authority has the discretion to increase the night cap subject to the additional T&C, such as a hotel, budget hotel in the area. Is it a tourist area, for example, like this is Cameron, so there is no night cap. This is a tourist area, there is not enough hotel, or they might impose a higher operation license fee. So this was a document drafted, and I hope it goes through and there is no more gray area. So when the JMB doesn't ban it, in the future, hopefully all buildings are automatically green building. Every building is allowed to do residential with night cap, commercial without night cap.
Interesting. Once again, thank you, Jordan. Very insightful. I think moving on from the Verve Suites case, because I'm going to try to go in towards the impact of COVID-19 on this area of business. I can say that one of the legal issues that also need to be addressed is issues pertaining to, for example, insurance. So what happens if someone had rented a short-term stay and have suffered injury? The water heater was too hot, causing burn to my body. If you're in a hotel, it's very clear. You know what you can do, you know who can sue, and who can get compensation from. But Airbnb, that's the issue. But you know, Airbnb is such a fantastic disruptor. It's disrupted the entire industry that the whole world is forced to see how you regulate this. So it's fantastic. But moving on, Jordan, we have gone through these gloomy days for almost a year. And if you look at from the time when we discovered the pandemic, the COVID-19 virus last year in December in Wuhan, when it was first discovered that there's a problem, we have gone through really, really gloomy times. Things seem to be getting worse and worse around the world. Every time we are improving, every time we flatten the curve, it comes back. So how has that impact on your area of business? How do you see so far? And then maybe you can also offer some solution towards the problem. All yours, Jordan.
Okay. This is a very broad question. Okay, I'll try to answer as short as possible. Previously, we do have a talk to give you. We have done research from UNWTO, World Tourism Organization. We have partners in China. So a quick summary is based on the experts' report. They are expecting it to flatten, or the world tourism will start to come back 18 months from the first pandemic. 18 months. So it is basically around Q3 next year for Malaysia. So different countries have different, whichever when they started off with the pandemic, 18 months. Some actually says it goes into 20% of the experts says that it will start recover in 2022. So our China partners, which has already flattened the curve in China, actually tell us that the direction is very simple. Focus more on long stay. Okay, focus more on collaborating more with the owner. Okay, so the owner can gain more return from it. Okay, third thing is basically focus on local tourism. These are the three key directions that short stay operators should focus on. And if your units are under short stay, now we have moved into something what we call the hybrid model. To be honest, don't worry. If your property has been working on short stay, we have the biggest advantage. We are not the ones suffering the most. For example, I give you a quick example. If you have a property to rent, okay, this is a vacant property, this is a short stay ready property, and if you're renting out at the same rate, normally people will go for this property. So short stay owner can basically it's very impossible to gain zero income if you go hybrid model. Compared to a hotel has huge operation costs. So let's say you have a minimum of 100,000 operation costs. For the short stay operator, it is a minimum of maybe 10,000-15,000 operating costs. Sustainability wise, the short stay industry is very, very versatile. So the industry is very versatile, but it is also a loophole created by the government. So which is why the government and the laws are trying to increase the standards so that you will increase the licensing rate and everything. Like hotels, you need like 18 regulations, and you need the bomba requirement, you need to register this, you need to register that. Short stay, you doesn't need to, but that will change. It will definitely change. If it doesn't change, the hotel industry is going to crumble. So we are in line with regulating, and it is a good time to regulate in this pandemic season also. So it is a good time if your building you are trying to implement, or if your building wants to enable that short stay could be consistent for the long run, or if you want to so-called ban short stay in your building, you can contact us. So we have the documents from the government. We can elaborate with you what the government is in line in working on to.
Yeah. Well said. You really compact everything into this. Yeah. But yes, so ladies and gentlemen, you heard it from the stakeholder that we can expect some redeployment of our industry next year in Q3 while we continue fighting this virus. Stay safe and clean, wash your hands every day. Yeah? But on that note, Mal, now that we've heard Jordan on his industrial point of view, from a stakeholder's point of view, as a lawyer, what do you think the long-term impact will be in terms of us crafting and drafting agreements, in terms of us advising, any lawyer advising the clients? What would you say moving forward from here, taking into account the COVID-19 plus the Verve decision? Moving forward, what would be your general advice and comments about this area?
Okay. So I think moving forward, since now we have basically found out what can and cannot be done by management corporations and by house owners. I guess as a lawyer, we, by all means, we will take all this into consideration when we want to write or we want to draft agreements, especially for house owners, if there is any agreements for the house owners. But I think the most importantly is for platforms like Agoda, Booking.com, even Host a Stay, even the TNCs with the hosts. That is, I think, the most important thing, because now we all know there's this policy of no cancellation, no refunds, and probably no rescheduling as well. So I think as a lawyer, that would be one of your main concern as to regulating the OTAs, regulating the platforms. How can the platform operate in a more efficient way when there is a hit of pandemic? And what can the house owners expect when there is a pandemic? So I think as a lawyer, that would be the terms which you want to incorporate in your agreements, especially for short-term rental. Because I don't think short-term rental, there is an agreement between house owner and the visitors. Usually it will be by way of any OTAs, any platforms. So then we should go to the platform and regulate there instead of a written agreement between house owner and the visitor.
So I suppose as members of the bar, all lawyers will be looking at refining, fine-tuning the agreements between the owner, the potential tenant, and third-party or services providers like Airbnb, and the additional service provider like host to stay. Then all this, there will be a refine in the clauses. And of course, I think the popular one is a force majeure.
Force majeure clause.
Force
yes.
majeure. That's the most. Overnight, the whole world learned force majeure. Or everybody become a lawyer overnight.
Yeah, and don't forget to include pandemic in your force majeure,
In the clauses,
because force majeure is actually a contract creature. So you have to specify what falls within that force majeure clause. If you don't include pandemic, COVID-19 may not be your ground.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So then I'm going to try to look at some of the Q&A, some of the questions posed here. I think, to be fair, some of them we have already kind of addressed it. And I saw some question in over here in Zoom. We have a query from Jennifer, who inquired earlier at 11:13. What is the during for short stay under the law? I suppose what's the duration for short stay? We already answered that we are still unsure. But maybe you can restate for now before I invite Jordan. What in your mind? What would be the principles will be in the head of a judge or even a lawyer when we are trying to refine the definition of duration for short stay? So I guess number one, it shouldn't be permanent. It can't be permanent. Number two, it cannot be a long-term tenancy where you sign a tenancy agreement, right? And Jordan said earlier where it's outside all these other things, right? So what are the other principles you think a lawyer or a judge will consider? Maybe that can help Jennifer.
Okay, so what you've said is correct, Richard. I totally agree with you. But I think in terms of law, as what is mentioned in a lot of tort cases, reasonableness. So I think the word reasonable duration of time would be taken into consideration by the courts if, let's say, there's any dispute on this particular matter. And of course, the nature and the intention of parties would be very well taken into consideration by the court. And of course, for lawyers as well, if you want to draft an agreement for short-term rental, the intention has to be made clear.
Yeah. All right.
Yes,
Jordan? Yes.
So I will use Penang as an example because Penang is very famous for this kind of cases. Okay, so what Penang actually they do, which is very interesting. I don't know if the lawyers they look into that, but they say if your unit is put on Airbnb, and if I screenshot your unit on Airbnb and I able to check in via Airbnb, then it is categorized as short stay, which is a very tricky one.
Well, you know one thing about the law, Jordan, there's always some gray areas.
Yeah, exactly.
But like you say, we prefer black or white.
Yeah.
And it takes time to refine. It. Yeah, but interesting example. Let's see what Andrew say here. Andrew in Zoom. Andrew inquired how to protect owners' interest in agency, business volumes. Most cases, no transparency. Jordan, you want to give it a shot?
Very, very good question. This is exactly when I was a property owner, I was trying to pass my property to another host to take care of it. So there is two things comes into my mind. Should I rent it out or profit sharing? So when it's doing profit sharing, I'm like, how do I know if you have taken one night extra to keep it yourself and so forth? So there's no transparency. So this is the app that we created. We have spent 3 years to work on it. I think it's a bit vague. Let's see if you can zoom in. Okay.
Can see.
Right. So you can see here, we are not a host. Host state, we are not a host, but every single transaction here is not key in by the host. So there's no double work. All these are transactions from Airbnb, Agoda, Booking.com, actual transaction, how many people stay in your property. So with this, you can know how much transacted and how much is shared with everyone. So that was the ultimate goal that we want to create, which took us 3 years to actually get the API and everything done. We was very quiet, but then we are making sure that we can deliver what we really want, which is actual transparency, and we chose not to be the host so that we can spot check on behalf of the owner. So if your units are on our platform, we will go and check your host on behalf. We will do a secret shopper, we will go check it out, and then we will get the review, and then we will get the transparency. Maybe you'll try, hey, can I don't book on OTA, can I direct bank into you or not? Then we'll do this kind of check. So this create as much transparency as possible.
Yeah. Cool. Interesting. We are coming to an end to our session already. We've got some, actually throughout our talk, questions popped up, but we already addressed the questions while we were sharing our views. Mal, it's already 11:56. Maybe you want to have a 2 minutes wrap up for your part before I invite Jordan to wrap up on the industrial part?
Sure. All right. Okay. So I think by having this discussion is very, very good. And from the Verve case and discussion with Jordan, who is also a committee in regulating this area, I think the industry is moving forward, and I'm very glad that Malaysia is taking this step to regulate short-term rental, because I think it is a positive and affirmative progress in the industry. As a lawyer, I do want this to be regulated, so there is no gray area, as what Jordan has said. And it's very good to know that the government as well as the stakeholders are taking the step moving forward. So yeah, I think that's all from me.
Yeah, well said, Mal. And I think while typical as a lawyer, we fill in the gap for people, that while waiting for the agencies and the authorities to fill in the gaps with the regulation, the lawyers will step in and assist the stakeholders by way of agreements, contracts, conducts, advisory, consultation. And I think that's where all the members of the Malaysian Bar will be able to step in and assist all the community in these areas.
Yeah, and I do want to add as well, Richard, if anyone would like to know more about the Verve Suites case, I have appended one article on this, and it's published on our website, richardwechambers.com. There's also one article published last year with regards to should short-term rental be regulated. So I think these two articles would be useful for those who want to know more about short-term rentals regulations and more discussions on Verve Suites case.
Okay, so maybe while we are speaking here, Mal, I'm going to invite Jordan to give his summary. While doing that, maybe we can cut and paste the article here for the people in Zoom. And then later on in the morning, we will go back to Facebook page, because there are many people watching us on Facebook. and then we can share them. For your information, Jordan, Mal, our Facebook Live has been shared more than 80 times. 80 times, 80. Thank you very much to those who logged on, watch, and sharing it at your respective pages. Now, Jordan, I must say the last 1 hour went through very, very fast. As usual, when things are exciting, banyak cepat dia punya laju. So maybe Jordan, you can just give your summary from the business and commercial point of view, the situation that we are in, and of course, moving forward, what should we do? All yours, Jordan.
All right. So, hi everyone. We are in a multi-billion-dollar industry. This is a very, very huge industry. Same like previously, the budget hotel wasn't regulated. Then the budget hotel was regulated. Moving forward, short stay will be regulated. So put that in mind. It will not be the same as previous. So, if you want to regulate your building, or if you know your JMB, or you have rights in the building, or you know developers or so forth, I think contact us. Okay, and we have professional lawyers here, and they have interest in this industry. These are all new contracts that needs to be drafted from scratch, and basically it needs to be crafted for every different building. We have the, for me, I can share more on the regulation of where the government is heading into, so that we are actually in advance that whatever is complied, it is actually usable in the years ahead. So we are working with multiple developers and buildings that is implementing very interesting bylaws that is recommended by the government also. All these bylaws put in very interesting clause such as maximum occupancy, all right? That visitor that needs to register themselves, okay? You need to register yourself to the local authority. You need to, what is your how do I put it? If you have any complaints, what is your SOP? These are things that if your JMB needs to approve, it's not that, okay, I allow you to do it now. It's not as simple as that. It needs to come in and actually make sure that the community is taken care of. The government is only looking at a few critical complaints. First thing is the even playing ground of short stay and hotel. So definitely taxes will be imposed, all right? Second thing is looking at the community. From the community perspective, they don't want too many complaints saying that, ayo, this person whacked the gut lah, this person have parties so I couldn't sleep. These are things that the government don't want also, all right? Third thing, public liability. Every hospitality area must have public liability insurance. Every hotel, every theme park, if someone get injured, someone get burned by the water heater, it needs to be covered by insurance. So if you're running this, it is also in part of the regulation. There are a lot more in the regulation. There is, we go through a lot. There is 39 pages, but these 39 pages has appendixes to multiple different regulations, such as the BOMBA regulation, the SSM regulation, the Ministry of Finance. So all these like Richard mentioned earlier, it is we hope it pushed through, but there is too many parties involved, and I don't know if I'm happy or sad I'm part of it. We are still in the motion of getting it all together, but there is no one key stakeholder. So everyone play their part. I believe that if JMB and us, the residents in the property, lawyers, everyone, we make sure that the property is done well. Okay, even whatever happened to the country, or if they ban short stay, which I don't believe it's coming, we can still continue to run short stay. Yeah.
Well said, Jordan. Well said. I must thank you, Jordan. Yeah, you can be doing anything in the morning on Saturday, but you choose to spend 1 hour with us in RWC. Come here. Thank you. Terima kasih. Ladies and gentlemen, just a few housekeeping comment to end this. This video is actually permanently on Facebook. Anytime, anywhere, if you're watching this now, you can always rewind this and start all over again. And later on, you will see a copy of this webinar video on our Richard V. Chambers YouTube. You can visit our RWC YouTube page. We got plenty of videos for you to watch there. You can even switch it on as a podcast while you're driving your car, and you can listen to the comments in the car while you're driving, because YouTube, you can also just switch on the sound. It can become a podcast there. And talking about podcasts, we also have a podcast. RWC have our own podcast where you can log on and listen to all our podcasts there. In the future, we will be having more events just to share with you. We have plans for this coming November and December. we have a plan to do towards 2021, which is today. This event is the first of the beginning of all our series of talks to wrap up the year 2020, looking into 2021. And we would like to share with you that the next event we'll hold is actually on a sports and anti-doping talk, where we will be dealing with the anti-doping code in 2021. So if any of you here are interested in sports, that will come up. And then Marlisa and I will be sharing in weeks to come more webinars to wrap up the year 2020 and to plan and prepare for 2021. As the title there says, we want to review, preview, and hold interviews for the year. With that in mind, I would like to thank everybody here who logged on. Can I invite everybody online here to give a cyber round of applause to Jordan and Mal, who have taken many days to prepare this webinar. Thank you very much, Jordan and Mal. And to everybody out there, can I say this? We live in gloomy days, but there is always hope on the horizon, and we really need to stay safe. Wash your hands, and wear your mask. Keep safe, and then we will see each other again soon. All right, take care, everybody. Mal, anything else, Jordan, before we call this an end?
No, that's all. Thank you so much, Jordan, for joining us.
Thank you for
and
inviting.
for taking your time. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, and hope it was informative for everyone. Thank you very much, everyone. Stay safe.
Okay, so with that, we will call this to an end. Mal, I think you are the controller of the system. We will end this. And everybody on Facebook, thank you very much. Take care. Adios. Stay safe. We will prevail.